This is a scientific study. They interviewed 5,000 men. This is the most up-to-date research that we have on masculinity, and the results are fascinating. In this video, I'm going to give a quick summary. If you want to see the full study, click on the link down below. Guess now, what do you think is going to be the strongest predictor of positivity in men? Is it their health, mental or physical? Is it their work and job satisfaction? Is it their relationships? Is it true that married men are happier? Before I tell you what the research says, I want you to guess. Predict now, what do you think is the strongest predictor of positivity in men? Okay, you've got your guess? Well, here's the answer according to the research. If you guessed job satisfaction and work, then you'd be absolutely correct. According to the study, job satisfaction is by far the strongest predictor of positivity, being around 3 times higher than the next strongest predictor. This isn't because men are overly materialistic or because they're obsessed with making money. What the study found is that a big predictor of male positivity was their ability to make a positive impact on their company's success. They wanted to feel useful, worthwhile, and valued. This study was done by Dr. John Barry, co-founder of the male psychological section of the British Psychological Society. Back in 2017, he published a study that analysed the responses of 2,000 men from the UK. He's doing the same study, but this time with 5,000 men from the United States. In both studies, they found that men who were confident that they made a positive contribution to their workplace had a positive mindset. The study concludes that the quickest way to improve your mindset as a man is to find satisfying employment. Have you ever come across those people who seem to enjoy the challenge of seeing how little work they can do and still get paid? As if there's some kind of perverse pleasure in seeing how much they can scam the system? Well, it turns out that they're really only hurting themselves. What they should be doing is working hard and making a positive contribution to the workplace. Yes, it'll be good for your employer, but it will be even better for you. It will improve your mental well-being. Just a quick note, this study was shared to me by one of my Patreon subscribers in a discussion we were having about Jordan Peterson. If you want to join our community and support the creator, please consider making a pledge. There's a link down below. Now, where the US study differed from the UK one is that they found that British men placed a much higher importance on being in a relationship. For British men, being in a relationship was the second highest predictor of positivity, whereas US men valued it far less. A much higher predictor of positivity was physical and mental well-being. What's interesting is that both studies found that men consider their mental health to be of much greater importance than their physical health. Across every age group, American men placed greater importance on their mental health than even their physical health. Across all men, 52% said mental health was very important, compared to 43% who said the same of their physical health. One of the most interesting parts of the study was the exploration that they did regarding age. It's one of the most important things that a man can do is realize that this fantasy that he's been sold by the culture that his 20s are his golden years and that it's all downhill from there is absolute nonsense. The truth is captured well by this headline from the study that says, "Men mature like fine wines." According to the study, men get happier as they get older, with men in their 50s at peak positivity. It makes sense too, of course they're happier. As men get older, they've accumulated more wisdom, more experiences, more talents, more wealth. So if you're a young guy who's worried about getting older, don't worry. Your best years are still to come. Now, let's go back to this difference that we saw between American men and British men in the field of relationships. According to the study, being married was the 5th highest determinant of positivity in American men, showing men who are married have greater well-being than others. Interestingly, in the UK, it was the 2nd most important factor. It's interesting to speculate on why this difference might be. Is there some difference in the temperament of British men that makes them place a much higher importance on relationships than their American counterparts? I'm from Australia, so I don't know about this one. If you're from either England or America and you have some insight as to why this difference might be, please leave a comment below letting us know your thoughts. Another possibility, and this one might be a bit out there, but it is possible that the culture has shifted a lot in the distance between these two studies, which is around 12 months. Could the culture of the wider Western world have changed significantly in the last 12 months to the point where people value relationships less? I don't think that's likely, but it is an interesting thought to ponder. Also interesting to note is that according to the study, single men are the least happy, even more so than men who were married and are now divorced. Now, one of the most important factors that I've seen when it comes to men's happiness is male bonding, male friendships. and it's great to see that the study confirms my suspicions. Men who value friendship, family, and sports and leisure have greater well-being. Sports, especially team sports, provide key benefits including, in order, socializing, feeling healthy, and competition. When they dug deeper to try and find out specifically what made sports so important to men, interestingly, they found that it was being part of a team and socializing with other men that made it such a positive experience. Things like developing a good physique and winning were not considered as important, though many men did enjoy the feeling of being fit and in good shape. It concludes that section by saying, the social side of sports, playing in/for a team, the banter, and perhaps even a cold beverage afterwards, is 3 times more important to men than having a good body. Team players, not vain loners, are happiest. There are some other interesting things from this report that some people might not predict, but others wouldn't find surprising. One is that men who have served in the military rank higher on the Positive Mindset Index. The study says that men currently on active duty have the highest PMI, and even those on active duty in the past, but not now, have a higher PMI than those with no service history. The study also says that men who vote Republican are more positive than those who vote Democrat. The study speculates that a possible explanation for this is the fact that Trump is currently president, and so they enjoy the sensation of being the ruling tribe at the moment. Also interesting to note is that men who feel like they have no tribe are the least happy. The disenfranchised who feel like no party accurately represents them. The study found that there was no statistical correlation between ethnicity or sexual orientation and happiness, which means that if you're gay, black, white, straight, Asian, doesn't really matter. You're just as likely to be as happy as anybody else. There are a few other interesting points in the study, things like regional variations across the United States, but I'm not going to go into them in this video. Again, if you want to see the full study, click the link down below. The conclusions of this report are extremely positive, especially when you look at the values that men aspire to. The study does a really good job of dispelling the myth that men are selfish, competitive, superficial creatures who are unsophisticated in their philosophical outlook. The study says, the values American men most aspire to are those of everyday heroes. Fathers, father figures, respectful co-workers, mentors. These are hard-working, loving, friendly men with a social conscience, which is great news for the men, women, and children of America. The study includes an image which illustrates which values were ranked as the most popular, which I'll show you now. As you can see, things like honesty, reliability, and respect are at the top, way above seemingly superficial values like being fit and athletic. What this shows is that men are aware that happiness comes from inside them, and more important than looking like the ideal man is living up to your ideals. Of course, from my perspective, the most significant finding in all of this research are the statistics that demonstrate how important meaningful work is for a man's self-esteem. As you can see from this graph, job satisfaction is by far the strongest factor in predicting positivity, by a factor of 3. As the study says, this is not primarily about wealth, but a sense of making a difference, being part of something bigger and more meaningful. So, with that in mind, getting men into fulfilling work is at the top of their list of recommendations, which they call 7 magnificent paths to increased positivity. So if you've got a buddy who's unemployed or working a terrible job, and you're absolutely certain that that's the cause of his depression, maybe send him a link to this video or to this study. Hopefully when he sees the science of it all, it might inspire him to make a change. The second recommendation is health. Looking good and feeling good. The study says that it's not about some punishing physical routine, but more about holistic health that comes with looking after yourself with good exercise, good grooming, and a healthy diet. Number 3 is to support relationships and families. The study found that men with children were the happiest of all, but unfortunately the inverse is also true, that men who have children and have been denied contact with them are the least happy. Number 4 is to embrace aging, and the study puts it so well. With so much media emphasis placed on the power of youth, it was extremely gratifying to discover that men in their 50s are the happiest of all. Harry's findings smash the cliche of the midlife crisis. Instead, a man's midlife seems to be his happiest life. A public awareness campaign around this would be most welcomed. Number 5 is to support sports, and it makes particular note of the benefits of sociable team sports. In a similar vein, number 6 is to promote the positivity of military service. The study points out that too much of the public discourse around military service focuses on the negative effects on men's well-being, things like PTSD and suicide. While not to diminish the importance of those issues, This study clearly demonstrates that being part of the military can have a very positive effect. Military service offers those important feelings of being part of something larger than yourself and contributing something positive to a team. I'd be curious to hear from those men in the comment section who have served in the military. Please comment below, do you feel like it's had a positive or a negative effect on your overall happiness? The last recommendation, and possibly the most important, is engage with men as they are and as they want to be. Men aspire to traditional moral frameworks, being honest, reliable, fair-minded, and when service providers engage with men, they need to focus on these positive aspects of masculinity. As the study says, much previous research into masculinity has negatively focused on the problems men cause, often through the nefarious concept of toxic masculinity. This has never been more so than in this post-Me Too landscape, and after every mass shooting or domestic terrorist incident. Lately, the dialogue has expanded to include the problems men have, such as the male suicide epidemic, depression, anxiety, and addiction, while offering scant few solutions. But Harry's research wanted to progress this dialogue forward by flipping the telescope and focusing on what gives men a positive outlook. I'm on the exact same page with this one. We need to be focusing on the positive and empowered masculinity and help men feel good about themselves because they're men. It's a wonderful thing. I love how this study is so uplifting and positive. It ends with, what we found was that the overriding majority of men aren't in crisis. Rather, they aspire to be decent. They want to work, provide, and nurture. They want to be loving, sharing partners, and caring friends. They take care of their health and their appearance. I want to thank Dr. Harry and his entire team for this really valuable research. I think it makes an important contribution to the discussion on what we can do as a culture to embrace masculinity. I also want to thank my Patreon subscriber, you know who you are, for sharing this with me. Thank you so much. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see more content just like this. If you want to support the creator, please consider making a pledge on Patreon, and make sure to leave a comment down below letting us know what you thought of this study, which parts you agreed with, which parts you disagreed with, and your personal experiences when it comes to these areas. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you again next time.